funeral service will be conducted by Rabbi Eli Gertel.
Thank you everyone for coming today. Because it's Hanukkah, we do not give hespedim, eulogies, but because Grandma was a Isha Chashuvah, a crucial and important person in the life of many, many people, we will be giving brief and proper words of recognition and tribute today. Her eldest son, Jerry, my uncle, will be giving a hesped, a eulogy between Mincha and Mariv on Sunday at our house. And Grandma, during the darkest time, it's very apropos that it's Hanukkah because you are all our guiding light. Today we will be starting with Tehillim, a few psalms from Grandma's youngest grandson, Mildred Miller. Then we will be hearing from grandsons Polya and Mishael Miller, followed by close friends of Grandma's, Rabbi Gertel, and then we will hear from Miriam Schiller, the past principal of Kiva and close friend, followed by her son Kenny, and lastly we will hear from my mother Ruth. We will be concluding with a Tehillim, a psalm from Jerry Yappa's eldest grandson, Mati. Eldest son, Grandma's grandson. Thank you.
Shira Malo, this I never remind you was as we may Madonna, O say, Shemaim Vagas. Ali Tina Mogadafa, Ayanum, Shomecha. In Elo Yanum Loishan, Shomer, Yisrael. Adonai Shomecha, Adonai Tilcha, Yad Minecha. Yomam Hashem Eshoyakeka, V'yareach, V'alayla. Adonai Yishmerecha Mikora, Yishmor et Nafshecha. Adonai Yishmor Tetkovecha Me'atov Yadolo. Shir Malo B'ma Maki Mikraticha Adonai. Adonai Shima B'koli Tero Lecha Kashuvot Levo Tachonai. In Avono Tishmor Ya Adonai Mi Amor. Kim Koslicha Leman Tivare. Kiviti Adonai Kitana Shivli Dvaro Hochaldi. Nafshi Adonai Mishomim Laboker Shomirim Laboker. Yachel Yisrael El Adonai Tim Adonai Chesed Ve'imo V'dut. Ve'hu Yivtet Yisrael Miko Lavonoto.
At this time, we'd like to invite all the grandchildren to come up and sing Ezras Israel. And once we begin, everybody please stand and sing along.
Anyone who's been to a family event and has heard my father speak, whether it's good times or bad, it's generally tough to get through, and I think that's a genetic trait that's been passed on to me. But I'll try to have some of my mother's strength and speak through. So Polly and I are speaking on behalf of the rest of our siblings. We all worked together to try to make a concise speech, which was quite a challenge, but we'll see what we can do. We feel immense pride and privilege to have had such a close relationship with Grandma. Starting in our formative years at Akiba, we saw her every day. Nasia was first to Akiba, and for anyone who has met her lately, this might be a little hard to believe, but she was quite shy. She used to hide under Grandma's desk, eat lunch with Grandpa there every day, and generally find refuge in her office. After that, the rest of us joined slowly but surely as the years progressed, and Grandma was always there, the first face in the door, right there in the office, for us to come in and know that everything was going to be okay. She helped us transition and enjoy school with a familiar face, and she spoiled us with an overflowing drawer of snacks and chocolate. Grandma made sure that her sweet tooth was genetic. But the sweet tooth didn't end in school. Her pantry at home always overflowed with our favorite snacks and drinks, breakfast with sugary cereals that we didn't have at home, and it continued into our house. Neria's had a stash of candy, way too large, for as long as we can remember. I know all grandparents spoil their grandkids, but we really had it made. She took it to another level. For the last 15 years, give or take, Grandma spent nearly every Shabbat and holiday at our house. The obvious item that comes to mind is Grandma's popcorn, known to all who come for meals or to hang out. Spending so much time together at the house and living together enhances our relationship and has provided an even greater window into how Grandma lived. Her joy and exuberance were apparent to all, but what wasn't always seen was that it stretched to every aspect, even the trivial matters. She would watch reruns of shows from 30 years ago with such excitement, coming to dinner late because Perry Mason was about to solve a murder, or disappearing into her room when Murder, She Wrote Marathon came out. She'd come out exclaiming, "Wow, what a good one," or marveling at how the mystery was solved. She loved sports and experienced them with all of us. The caveat was that it was only once the event concluded that she could share with us. Watching it with us was too nerve-wracking. Major events had to be switched to radio because the TV drama made her too nervous. One of her greatest joys was not this from kids and grandkids. Grandma would revel in her children's and grandchildren's lives and accomplishments, bringing her joy and sharing the news with everyone. Her love is endless. She always made sure that we felt special. Any important milestone, like birthdays, graduations, or anniversaries, were remembered. Grandma made sure to call and never failed to send cards and presents.
Grandma always led by example. She was always committed to community, no matter what chapter of her life. Every choice she made was influenced by her commitment to community, from volunteering in a Gedazachim, Jewish war veterans, Little League, Akiva Schechter, and many more. Growing up, we always heard stories and knew her as the person that was always on her feet, always supporting, doing whatever she could to bring people together, whether raising money, and giving to her community from all walks of life. When we used to go through her mail, there would be hundreds of letters from charity organizations, and she gave to every organization without fail. She always used to say, "As long as I have my head on straight, I'll be working at Akiva." And she did. She was at Akiva this past Thursday. Even though she would always tell us not to work too hard, We learn from her actions to be that she exemplified hard work, honesty, and commitment. Nothing was ever too much for Grandma. She always wanted to do more. Whenever she was sick, her will was always to get better, get back to Akiba, her apartment in Hyde Park. Her independence and her Feldsheimer strength always pushed her to overcome whatever she was fighting. We are extremely grateful to have been so actively a part of every step along the way. Nothing came before family, and as we all know, Grandma treated everyone like family. Grandma and Grandpa had an open door policy, something that they imbibed from their parents. Everyone was welcome, from USC students in Hyde Park, to anyone at Hillel, to Jerry's friends from Yeshiva. If they needed a meal or a place to stay, they knew where to go. On the Akiba Schechter website, it describes Grandma as the school matriarch, which could not be more fitting. As much as she is our grandmother, she is so many other people's adopted grandmother, mother figure, mentor, and therapist. She worked at Akiba for 49 years. And as my dad says, he's one of 4 children: Jerry, Kenny, Glenn, and Akiba Schechter. We had the privilege of going to school and seeing Grandma and Grandpa every day, and that was so special. Grandma took care of us in every sense of the word. We got to see her generosity and work ethic every day, which is so rare and such a privilege.
Grandma is a shining beacon of inclusion. No one was better at keeping in touch. She remembered all the phone numbers and addresses. Every time she got on the phone, it didn't matter who she was talking to, there were 2 main topics that had to be covered: what they ate, what we're about to eat, and what the weather was. Even if she was on the south side and we were on the north side, the weather patterns were completely different. Grandma had a way of drawing people in. Her care, love, and devotion couldn't have been more obvious to anyone who crossed her path. She loved kids, and kids loved her. Whether it was family, which is beyond a given, the kids at Akiba over the last 49 years, or even our little neighbors running around, stopping to talk to Grandma and visiting her after school, after camp, running through the house without any warning, coming to visit Grandma. And of course, she was sure to spread her sweet tooth to them as well, giving treats to everybody. She was cherished and enjoyed by all shows, community centers, and the like, known, welcomed, and loved. Countless times, both in Chicago and outside of it, we would meet people, share our names, and Jewish geography game would inevitably ensue. We'd start with Chicago, say our names, our parents' names, and it's not as though my father is particularly antisocial himself, but time and again we're recognized as Millie Miller's grandchildren. She even turned the generic haircut into a community and family. Her beauty shop was where she'd meet friends, talk about life, kids, grandkids. Whenever we would take her or drop her off, we could see how important we were to her by how much the 30 women around the shop would talk about us. Coley and I have said, if you ever need an ego boost, take a stroll into the shop. We walk in and we say how good looking we are, how accomplished we are, how great our grandmother and our parents are. It was amazing. Even Uber drivers became friends. She'd leave an Uber with the full family history, genuine appreciation for the person. Every single one without fail was a new friend. Her warmth and love for family were so abundant, it extended to my mom's side of the family as well. Her relationship with my grandparents, aunts, uncles, and cousins is really an inspiration. If I'm not mistaken, my cousin Shayna, who's here today, was making moves toward official grandchild status, trying to climb up the list of favorites this past Sukkot in Toronto. It's an appropriate tribute that people flew in and have been calling and sending so many warm, loving, heartfelt messages.
As previously mentioned, family was such an integral part of Grandma's life. We feel fortunate to have had Grandma come to our house for every Shabbat and Chag because we got to see everything that we've mentioned in this speech firsthand. Growing up, Grandma worked from the age of 9 at her father's grocery store to help support the family, and she continued this doing throughout her life. Something that some of you might not know about Grandma and Grandpa is that when they got married, they lived in the same building as Grandma's parents. Abba talks about learning so much from his grandparents and watching his mom exemplify Kibbud Av V'Em because he got to live and see that throughout his entire life, beginning of his life. And wow, here we are, 2 of the most important role models of our parents. The Torah says Kibbud Av V'Em, and I've never seen 2 people care for parents the way that they do, day in and day out, and we know where they got it from. When people find out that we are Millie Miller's grandkids, the sentiment is always one of such high praise, gratitude, and love. Grandma, we love you so much, Thank you for the unbelievable lessons you worked so hard to create. And pass on from generation to generation, and we are honored to carry your legacy.
We gathered this morning to pay fond tribute to Mildred Miller, Millie, beloved to her family and to the large community of admirers and beneficiaries of her efforts, a community that extends from the south to the north in Chicago and probably into every state in the Union and beyond, and of course to Israel as well. Millie always spoke with love and devotion and admiration of her parents, Samuel and Pearl Feldschreiber. She marveled at her father's integrity in business as in life, and at his having learned 7 languages to communicate with customers, and his grocery, and his ability to get along with people of all backgrounds. She was proud that her father trusted her from age 9 to work with the cash box at the store. Millie was the eldest of 7 children, and she took her role as the eldest seriously. She was devoted to her siblings, Selma and Hi, Arthur and Marilyn, Rosie and Marvin, Jenny and Paul, Shelley and Hi, Renee and Bob, and to their children. She kept in close touch with all of them, and kept up with all of her nieces and nephews. The saying in the family was that the Feldschreiber bond is very strong. And at an early age, Millie became the effective Grand Central Dispatch of the family, and with the passing of her parents, the matriarch. She also took very good care of her parents. Millie also visited frequently her maternal grandparents, Abraham and Fagin Barad, and was proud that they operated the first shoe store on Maxwell Street and received awards for their integrity in business. After graduating from high school, Millie worked at Sears and guided her siblings in pooling their earnings to help the family as a whole. She studied secretarial skills for a couple of years. She was active in Junior Hadassah and North. During World War II, she participated in a volunteer effort to write to servicemen. From her volunteering in Jewish organizations, she met 2 sisters who insisted that she meet their brother, Irving Miller, who was also an eldest child in his family of 5 siblings. Their meeting was a great blessing for her and, of course, the great blessing of his life, and they married in 1946. They established a home open to family and friends and to the Jewish community and to constructive friendships and projects in the general community. They enjoyed 55 years of warm and loving marriage. Millie reached out to Irving's family, bonding especially with May and with her son Jay. Millie and Irving were blessed with 3 sons and delighted in their character achievements and commitments to Jewish life, Jerry, Ken, and Glenn. Millie welcomed her daughters-in-law into the family and reached out to their families. She was in constant touch with Yafa and Ruth and spent every Shabbat and Yom Tov in recent years with Ruth and Glenn. The apples of her eye were her grandchildren, Mati and Kaya Esther and their 3 children, Dari and Rocharina and their 5 children, Tali, Shemaiah, and Tavi, Marissa and Mark and their daughter, Daniel and Amy, Rebecca and Andrew, Taniel of blessed memory, Anastasia, Nesia, Mishael, Kolya, and Neria. In her early married life and to the present, Millie continued her efforts in behalf of leukemia research and Jewish war veterans. She was proud of Irv's distinguished service in World War II. Millie served as a local and regional president of the Ladies' Auxiliary of Jewish War Veterans. She was behind many quarter drives for leukemia research and parties for veterans at the Hines VA Hospital. A native Southsider who always loved South Shore, Millie cherished a racially diverse community and felt comfortable in it. She did everything possible to keep her community together, especially when it was labeled a changing community, by serving as president of the PTA of South Shore High School and in many other ways. Millie believed that Judaism still holds unique teachings for the world, which only a vital synagogue and Jewish people can provide. She became president of the Sisterhood of Agudas Achim congregation and volunteered in the Hebrew school office there and then in the synagogue office. She would help make Sunday breakfast for some 50 millionaires and their families. She loved and visited the old new state of Israel, enjoying its spiritual, agricultural, cultural, and scientific achievements, and its warm, frum communities, such as that of Rabbi Jerry and his family. In 1969, when she felt her children no longer needed her at home, she went to work for the Akiba Day School. The opportunity to be at the center of the Jewish community was irresistible to her, and Millie naturally became the heart and soul of that community and of every community with which it intersected. Her presence blessed the day school community for some 49 years. When the Akiba and Schechter schools merged, Millie added pain or grace to that association and helped to cement the amalgamated community by forging friendships, especially with Rose Miller, the longtime Schechter secretary, who became a dear friend. Millie bonded with the principals and guided them, especially Rabbi Harvey Well and Miriam Schiller, and with Barbara Simon and Carla Goldberg, directors of the preschool, and with all the faculty, students, and parents in the preschool, kindergarten, and elementary and middle school departments. Over the years, Millie did everything in the office, from answering the phones, to bookkeeping, to purchasing supplies, to planning spaghetti dinners and fundraisers. She presided over the intermission sales of concerts and plays and musicals. Watching her in action was as impressive as the programs. She provided halot for Shabbat and baked goods, and did tons of quiet fundraising for the school, and even for leukemia research through the school, selling nuts and chocolate. She was the school mother and grandmother for literally hundreds of children, putting kids at ease in their first days at school, and encouraging them and comforting them throughout all the years. Little wonder that she received applause and even standing ovations at countless graduation ceremonies. When in West Rogers Park, she enjoyed greeting Akiba Schechter families here and getting to know the children of this neighborhood and their parents. She delighted in every achievement of the students and teachers. Millie continued to come into the office until only days ago. I enjoyed sitting in the office and hearing how she interacted with people over the phone. Her family says that she was an unlimited well of love, and that she showed her love for family and community by spending hours on the telephone, talking, reaching out. She made the time to read the daily newspaper and to read novels. She also made the time to listen to Blackhawks and Cubs baseball games. She appreciated sports and what amateur sports could do for children and for adults. After all, she and Irv served as members of South Shore Little League and bowled for Jewish war veterans, where Millie, not surprisingly, kept score. Indeed, Millie was a scorekeeper for the community in the best sense of the term. She wanted everyone to do their best, for the well-being, achievement, integrity, and grace of the whole and of every individual. Whether in the school or synagogue or any other venue, she kept an eye out for anyone who needed help or encouragement. She opened her home to anyone who needed a place to stay on Shabbat for a Hillel or a Kibbutz Schechter or Rodfeit Tzedek event, or for students boarding at local yeshivot. Millie loved the synagogue and prayer, especially on Shabbat, and rejoiced when the community achieved daily minyanim. She embodied the spirit of delight of the psalmist. How lovely are your tabernacles, Ma'iritu, O Lord of hosts. She enjoyed the poetry of the prayers, the traditional music of the synagogue, and the spoken word. And of course, she loved to attend family functions and those of friends and students in the synagogue, in various synagogues. Just this past Shabbat, she delighted in Nasia's anniversary reading of his bar mitzvah portion. We were proud that she and Irving were affiliated with Congregation Rodfeit Tzedek for many years. I bring a message of comfort from the congregation. Her enthusiasm and, yes, her gentle exhortations kept the entire community, rabbis also, on a solid and right path. She alerted us to sickness and need. She noticed right away when someone was absent or upset. She was trusted with the keys to the South Chicago Synagogue and with the records of Menorah Gardens. It is fitting that services today should take place in a synagogue named Ezras Israel, Help of Israel. She enjoyed attending services here regularly in recent years. The name of this shul, Ezras Israel, is a midah or attribute, or better, an action of God that Millie emulated in remarkable, memorable, and effective ways. She helped Jews to be better Jews, to fulfill their God-given purpose and mission in the world. Is that not what Hanukkah is all about? That the Maccabees acted that the light and purity of Torah and mitzvot should continue to bless and enhance the world, beginning with the Jewish community. May Millie rest in peace, even as we affirm in our faith a life beyond this earthly life in God's eternal presence. Her memory will always be the blessing that her life was. Of Mildred Feldschreiber-Miller, we may confidently say what scriptures say of the woman of valor. Place before her the work of her hands. Wherever people gather, her deeds speak her praise. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Yes.
I first met Millie about 30 years ago when I came to Hyde Park to be the principal of a Kibbutz Schechter. I was an educator, but I was very naive and knew very little about running a school. But it was okay, because I had Millie. And Millie had already been the heart and soul, as you heard, from Akiva at that point already for about 20 years. So she continued on as the heart and soul of the Kibbutz Schechter, except she became my helpmate. And at a time when many people are looking to retire, she started anew with me, her sixth principal, and together we started to rebuild the school. I regret, when I'm at school and I see so many of the students and even the current families, I only regret that the Millie Miller that they know is but a shadow of what Millie Miller always was. Millie Miller, there was no event that happened at Akiva Schechter that Millie Miller was not involved with. I still remember my first year, there was a Shabbat dinner planned in January, of course. And Monday, before that Friday night dinner, we only had a handful of RSVPs. The school was very tiny. And Millie said, it makes no sense to bring in cooked food. We'll save money. We'll just cook it ourselves. What do I know? I'm new. So I said, sure. So there we planned the meal and went shopping and started preparing, except I didn't know that it's irrelevant how many people RSVP. So here we are, cooking, defrosting chicken, Wednesday night, as more and more people responded that they were coming. And yes, there were a couple of parents who helped and some teachers, but basically Millie and I were up every night and at school till after 10 o'clock preparing what ended up being a meal from soup to dessert to chicken. I still remember the cornflake chicken for over 100 people. Didn't do that again. But Millie, the school was everything to her. I still remember when her husband, Al-Shalom, who was retired, would come into the school. He'd sit there while Millie would pull out all her coupons and her list of errands, and she'd give it to him, and he would go shopping and come back so he would save the pennies for the school. I still remember also, especially in the early years, Millie coming to me and saying, Miriam, we can't deposit our checks because I don't know if there's enough money to cover. So we'd wait, and then she'd come back to me a few days later and say, it's okay, the teacher's check's cleared, so we can deposit ours. What kind of an employee does that? Because Millie wasn't an employee. It was Millie's school. And Millie loved everyone who was part of the school. You've heard from her children and from Rabbi Gertel. She became my children's resident bookie. People have, when I came, I brought my 5-year-old daughter, and everybody's heard the story how I used to travel with a pillow in the back seat and bring Mindy in her pajamas and pull up in front of Millie's window and park there and come in to work because there was always so much to do. And as Rabbi Gertel mentioned, Rose al-Shalom and Millie would be able to look at Mindy just so she could get that extra hour of sleep. And eventually she would get up and come out, and there would be Millie. And I still remember her saying, Min, don't bother your mom, she's busy, what do you need? And she would make sure her hair was combed, and she had breakfast, and everything was good, and she was ready for school. But she wasn't just my children's resident booby. She was everyone's resident booby. And that means, parents would come and they didn't know people, they were new to the community. She made sure she shared where was the doctor, where was the grocery, meet these other people, a babysitter. When new teachers came, she would make sure they felt welcome and understood that they were not joining a school, but they were joining a family, that Akiva Schechter was a family. And of course, the children. The children were everything. She knew every child's name. She was always there for the children. whether it was to wipe tears, or to give them a hug, or have a snack, or even reprimand them like a good grandmother. I remember the times somebody would call and say, I'm sorry, I can't make it in time, and Millie would say, don't worry, I'll take him home with me. And she did. And she took him home, and I still remember occasionally gave him dinner. And the Shabbatones. We heard a little bit about them, but her home was always open, and sometimes it was children, sometimes it was grown-ups. Even when she was no longer staying in Hyde Park, she would hand me the keys, and I would stay at her house. And I would always say, don't do anything, Millie, because we're eating at school. But the hot water was always on. She'd make a famous bowl of popcorn for me, make sure there was a snack, because we all know there's nothing to eat at Shabbaton. Because that's who Millie was. She loved the school, the families, everybody about it. So I was so happy to hear that her last week was the way it was, that she spent those last days doing what she loved to do, helping at school, helping to serve lunch for the children. When I first came, my very first day, Millie took me aside and said, Miriam, you need to know, every Friday morning I leave for about an hour to get my hair done. Okay. So I did hear from Glenn. After she finished taking care of what she needed to with the children, Friday she went and she got her hair done. She was with her family. Shabbat, she was in the synagogue, she was in shul, and as Glenn said, she looked great. And Sunday, the end of an era, the real end of an era. And after all is said and done, what is the measure of a person's life? And I believe the measure of a person's life is what they do for others. So Millie had a wonderful life. She was always helping others. And Millie, I thank you for all you've done for me and my family. And Sama Michael, forgive me any transgressions.
Comments I have are just from the heart, but first I want to quote, picking up on what Miriam Schiller just said. Mishpacha magazine said this about my mom. On May 8th, 2013 issue of Mishpacha, the 28th of ER 5773, Mishpacha said about my mom, it's nice to be missed, but for the most senior of seniors, having a sense of purpose, staying busy and keeping cognitive skills sharp is worth the trade-off of retirement's golden years. No one would agree with that more than Grandma Miller, Mrs. Mildred Miller, a secretary in the office of Akiva Schechter's Jewish Day School in Chicago, where she's worked since 1970. I speak to Grandma Millie on one of her most hectic days. Tonight is the yeshiva dinner and fundraiser, and she's busy as ever, selling raffle tickets, although she's already put in many hours today. After she goes home for lunch, she'll be back at night to help with the dinner. Even without the special projects, a yeshiva office is a fast-paced, bustling environment. Yet although well into her 90s, Grandma Millie has no problem maintaining the momentum. When she started working at Akiva Schechter, Grandma Millie ran the office almost single-handedly. I did everything, she says, ditto machines, mimeographing, you name it. I put in long hours, up to 12 hours a day. According to what Miriam said, even longer than that some days. Today she deals with, they go on, today she deals with the endless phone calls, the forgotten lunches, and special requests with grace and aplomb. She's considered an integral part of the office workings. When she was out sick with pneumonia this past winter for 8 weeks, she was sorely missed. Students sent her get-well cards and baked cakes and cookies for her. When she finally returned, she got a hero's welcome. It's nice to be liked and missed, she ponders. Like many older workers, Grandma Millie brings a combination of balance, maturity, wisdom, and restraint to the hectic office atmosphere. She is respected for her seniority and is often called upon as an experienced consultant in the school. They come to me with their ideas, she explains, and ask me for my opinion. I can usually tell them if it will work or not. Grandma Millie says she exercises every day and occasionally works out with a yoga instructor from her school, although she adds that she works with me very gently. She also watches what she eats and cooks her own meals. I was never a snacker, she says, and I don't eat out at restaurants. I just wasn't brought up that way. She also likes to read. But when I ask her what she does during her spare time, she thinks for a moment and says, well, there really isn't too much of that. Grandma Millie also asks the treasurer of her condominium building, a job, by the way, that she held until just, until days ago. Article continues, don't expect Grandma Millie to retire anytime soon. I'll tell you the truth, she says, I've worked here so long, I can't imagine packing up. She talks to Hashem every day, she says. I really leave it up to the Lord, quote, I really leave it up to the Lord. As long as my head is on straight, my body moves, I'll be here. And she was. Even as late as last Thursday, as was described, she had a regular Millie week. A few days at Kiva Shecker, serving lunch Thursday afternoon, getting her hair done per her custom, as everyone's noted, Friday afternoon. That was her minhag for decades. Going to Glenn's, having dinner, probably taking a few phone calls, having a beautiful meal. We went around on Hanukkah talking about the different Nisim and miracles people felt about Hanukkah. Millie had her own take on it. He had her own version to say about that. Let me say that the dinners of Glenn's, as people who know us may know, go on a long time. and this one started around 6 o'clock after sunset and went till 10 o'clock. Sometimes things went much longer, watching ball games well into the night. Millie stayed up for all Friday night, on the last Friday night of her life. She stayed up till 10 o'clock until she finally said, that's enough, I'm going to bed. 10 o'clock. Saturday morning, New Year's Landing at the show. Glenn and Tom, how you feeling? He says, New Year's Landing. Glenn and Ruth are going for an early minion. She said, yeah, I'll go. Saturday morning, a couple days ago. Sunday morning, she has her regular Sunday morning massage. Talks to Marissa, my daughter, about 1:30. It's basically a regular Millie day. After her massage, she usually need a little time to rest, but she's talking to Marissa. And shortly after that, things changed. But she went out as her life was. At one of these honorary dinners several years ago, I heard Mom said, they want me to retire from a kippah. I go, Mom, maybe it's time. She was well into her 80s at that point. She said, I don't think so. I go, I don't think so. And I said, well, the secretary of the school, although she wasn't the secretary as you get in any conventional sense. That school was her life. Anyway, she says, I don't think so. And I said, well, I guess, it could happen now. She keeps shaking her head. I don't know what's going to happen. Anyway, she got sick. They honored her. She was honored 3 times by that school. 3 times. And there were big crowds at all of them. One at Akiba, at the Rofes at a social hall. Another one was at was it the Hilton Glen? The Palmer House. Thank you, Glenn Ruth ran that one. At the Palmer House, a huge crowd. And then at Spurs. So she'd been sick months before the Spurs event. And each of these were big drawers. I'm sure Kiva did well. And I went as an aside, I told this to the guys in my show, Congregation in Buffalo Grove. I said, I keep honoring my mom every few years, and I keep checking. She's been here for decades. And one of the guys said, well, our show's kind of struggling here in Buffalo Grove. Get your mom to come out to Buffalo Grove. Well, I don't hear in Buffalo Grove. We need a big fundraiser. So at that fundraiser a few years ago at the Spurs Institute of Judaica, she gets up to talk. She says basically this: huge crowd. I'm sitting with, remember, next to my aunts and everything. And my Aunt Jenny, remember, says to me, your mother really is this school. she is at school. I go, she's all kept this school going. And as everyone has said, I think that's true. That she was that school, she wasn't employed. At school, she was at school for decades. That's how she felt about it. Anyway, she gets up to talk, and she says, my son Daniel would come in and surprise her. She says, my cup runneth over. I'm so pleased you honored me. Pause. And I'm not retiring. I almost fell off my chair, and I said, what a moment. What a moment for my mom. They can't make her retire now. And she didn't. Worked until last Thursday. They can't make her retire. Like I said, she's always thoughtful. She had, in my view, really many different lives. You know, you heard about all the many organizations she was involved in. She was pregnant with me, she tells me. She was president of the Women's Auxiliary of the Jewish War Veterans. And she was on the go all the time, as she was with South Shore PTA and South Shore Little League and Jewish and in the Shul, Good South Shore, and involved in the Leukemia Research Organization. When a friend asked her, want to come aboard and help us out? Sure. She, they always say if you need something done or somebody busy, she had many organizations and a big family, and she wasn't going to stop. So we were thinking about this last night. So she was a stay-at-home mom who, because of all her busy activities as a volunteer, really was not at home all that much. Although she was home for lunch. Let me just say her life at Cuba was an amazing run. I'll just tell this to Miriam an anecdote she doesn't know. When the school moved, and everybody ever heard this, I remember her being on the phone in Hyde Park. When the school moved, when she was in Cuba and South Shore closed, and they moved to Hyde Park. And it wasn't clear for a bit if she'd have a job in the new Hyde Park merger of Akiba and Schechter Day Schools. And she said, I don't know if I have a job anymore. I said, well, we'll talk and you'll see. She's on the phone with somebody talking about this new Akiba Schechter Day School in Hyde Park. And I said, Mom, you've had this incredible life raising the kids and all your activities. I said, worked a little bit in South Shore at the Akiba Day School. Doesn't work out. She goes, I'll continue working. She's on the phone. She's talking to somebody about whether this will happen, and she's crying, wondering whether she's going to have a job there. This has had to be around 1970. Well, she had a job there. Turned out they took her. And then she had this long run up to last Thursday. She was an amazing, incredible lady, extraordinary person, who was incredibly involved. She was a throwback, in my view, to some other era. As somebody who's reading journalism, I hear about how women sometimes think they're not, they're second-class citizens, they're not so important, etc. I never thought that about my mom, and none of us ever did. In our house of my dad, Irv, Jerry, Glenn, and I, she was a very powerful person. Arguments and discussions we had about sports and business and politics and religion, Millie was right in the middle of all of those things. Never took a back seat. So when people said, women aren't being treated fairly and so on, I'm like, that's not my mom we're talking about. That's not Mildred Miller. That's not who she is. So I really wondered about that. I said, I guess maybe in other houses it's not like that. Well, today's a day we dreaded for years. I see today, Hanukkah, it's a joyous day in the Jewish community, as still a celebration of Millie's life. That's how I see today. I appreciate everybody coming out to honor her, and people will see over the next several days the children and so on. My father used to say, Millie is the best wife I ever had. Jerry, Glenn, and I can say, she's the best mom we ever had.
One handed me few sheets of paper this morning, and for better or for worse, I feel that Mom, your demonstration of kibbutz of the aim, honoring our parents, was inspirational. Ruth, our children, and I tried our best, though falling short sometimes, to follow in your footsteps. Please forgive me for anything I may have done wrong, missteps, or hurtful words. Please continue to be a guiding and inspirational light to me, our family, and community. I am at a loss with the thought that my Hanukkah light, the light and the fire of Mildred Miller, has transitioned out of this world to the next, and is no longer a tangible presence in this world. Though she is, and she always will be. I will miss you terribly, and you were intertwined with our family. My kids, our greater family, the community, are all at a loss with our matriarch, Mildred Miller, Malka Bat Menachem Yosef, and Carol Devorah. May your light shine, and may you be a giver for our family, the community, and the Jewish people. May you successfully reunite with Dad, Danielle, and your parents, siblings, and family. Words cannot express my love and gratitude to you and Dad, and your leadership, your guidance, your unconditional love, and your commitment to our family. Your ability to relate to people, to bond, and to make everyone feel special is beyond unique. It is a fine treasure. You demonstrated how to be caring, show interest and concern for others beyond normal expectations. I will do my best to follow in your lead and to strive to be the best despite any hurdles which you and Dad faced many, and battled through some very difficult and challenging times in your life. As you have taught, I will find a peaceful and amicable resolution, and I will strive to do so with family, with community at large. Your accomplishments, your dedication, all the people you've helped, your life. You, Millie, your life was full and was wealthy. I love you forever. Now it's my turn. Millie had made a difference in so many people's lives, as all of you can attest. She sacrificed for others. She did not have a smooth path, but one would never have known it from her generous spirit. She looked to make everyone around feel special, and she was remarkably good at doing so. Glenn specifically asked that I express our gratitude to everyone who contributed to her living such a long and productive, impactful life. That includes those of you those who you have heard from and about. They also include all of you. And at the risk of hurting anybody's feelings, I'm going to single out Dr. Jack Fox, our neighbor, our friend, and our family, and Dr. Kenny Greenwald, my brother-in-law, who is our always on-call physician. You have heard from others here today, but I would like to share from a daughter-in-law's perspective, not to the exclusion of her other two sons, Jerry and Ken. I can speak of the beautifully devoted bond between Millie and Glenn. Glenn has expressed how much he loves his mother, how positive a role model she has been, and what an amazing leadership role she has played for him. They had an unusual relationship that shaped our lives. Millie was integrally intertwined in our lives, not unlike the relationship Glenn witnessed between Millie and her parents. I do not have the typical daughter-in-law stories to tell. Millie always made me feel appreciated and loved. I knew that she felt that I was the right person for her son. There was not a Shabbat meal that she didn't remember to have from the table and compliment the food and my hard work. She made it clear that she felt I was special, and she never criticize my driving, and anyone who's driven with Millie will know that she did that. But for me, sit in the passenger seat and close your eyes. It is no surprise that we're celebrating Hanukkah. Hanukkah very purposefully falls during the Earth's darkest and longest nights. Not our shortest days, but the 8 longest nights. There is no question we feel this darkness right now, but we are also keenly aware of the light of Hanukkah. This is the light the Midrash tells us Adam lit when he thought the world was coming to an end. This is the light the Maccabean lit when they won the battle against all odds with the mighty Roman Empire. Missing the opportunity that year to celebrate the 8 days of Sukkot, and therefore instead celebrating the lighting of the temple's menorah during the darkest 8 days, starting on the 25th of Kislev, the first day of Hanukkah, through to the 8th day. And this is the light that Millie lit in each of us. The light we light on Hanukkah, carrying her torch, carrying Hashem's torch forward. Millie's Batira, her passing, was on the darkest night, the night of the new moon, in which we see the moon. This is how we feel. But we all know Millie was not about no moon, she was about light. The light we light on Hanukkah, the lights of the Beit HaMikdash, the temple, the lights that bring us as a Jewish people together, the lights that bring people of the world together as Millie did. We carry Millie forward, learn firm lessons, and continue to strive to make everyone feel special, to make this world a better place. Millie changed all of our lives, and all of our lives are now changed forever.
Skill and the beat, the song of our Askelon. Lila the May Crow, Lila the May Zok, Lila the May Schanon. Espoech of the Sichit, our seal of the Magid. וישתף על הרוחים, ואתה יודעת את הסיוסים, וירחזו עליך תנו פחדים. הבית ומירי ואין מכיר, עבד ולס ממני אין דרש לנשים. צעקתי לך אדינוי, אמרתי אותו מחזיק, כי בארץ החיים. הקשיב אל מנסי, כי דלוי סמויוי, עתילי נר ידפק, ירצו ממני. ציון, ממזכיר נפשי לא יעשה שמך, ביחדיו צדיקים כסגמוי.
The pallbearers will be Monty Miller, Connie Miller, Dan Miller, Mark Axelrod, Andrew Goff, Jay Miller, Jeff Gazoy, and Mike Green, and Misha Miller, Koya Miller, and Miriam Miller. And then we will be going to the cemetery, and I'm going to pass it on to you. Thank you all for coming today.
The interment is going to take place in Menorah Gardens, which is at 2630 7th 17th Avenue, that's 2630 South 17th Avenue in Broadview. If you're planning on driving to the cemetery, our funeral procession is going to form directly on Rabbi Zion Kaganoff Drive, also known as Lunt. We will be facing east, so we will be facing west, so we'll be directly in front of the synagogue just as we are now. I would ask anyone who's driving to please make your way to the east several blocks and then come back up facing to the west. If you're in the parking lot, please do not try to go directly into the procession, rather make your way to the east and then turn around and face to the west. We will be passing out orange safety stickers and flags, and please drive with your high beam headlights on, your flashers on. Please be careful if you're going through a red light. It is permissible. You need to be careful, make sure that people see that there's a funeral procession. The Shiva is in the pamphlets that we've handed out. If you have additional pamphlets of husband and wife, there's a few people that still haven't received them. Please leave one of your pamphlets outside when you exit the sanctuary. This concludes the services here in the sanctuary. Thank you for coming.
Abba, you want to go through this list?
There will be people outside passing out flags.
Right.